Hi everyone! So today in this video I'll be talking about the new Sony A7S III and how easy it is for a beginner to novice level photographer or videographer to just start picking it up and taking beautiful photos and videos with it. What got me interested in upgrading from my Canon 80D is to have a device that has much better dynamic range and potentially something that is a little bit smaller and lighter as well, so a mirrorless system. This video is really focused on a beginner to novice level audience. I won't be maxing out any of the technical specs, high resolutions or slow motion or astrophotography, extremely low light, etc. This is just kind of a all-around beginner friendly video review. So first I'll be talking about some features that I loved about this camera, and then I'll be talking about some features that don't quite fit me and my work style, and then I'll end with some parting thoughts. So first off, I love the dynamic range in the camera. I feel like one of the things I love about this camera is just the versatility. I could take it to shoot in harsh lighting situations. Really love the automatic colors. I think that's one of the things that make it super beginner friendly, but there's a lot of different color settings and picture profiles that you can adjust if you so desire. The second thing I loved about the camera was the active steady shot. I took it to a small Indiana town and just kind of walked around with it. Active steady shot essentially is a feature which cuts away at like 10% of the video frame to compensate for the gyro stuff that it's doing, but it basically made a lot of my handheld shots look like it could have been taken on a gimbal of some sort. The autofocus also works super great. It was really easy to just rack focus with the touchscreen. It was very easy to use, and it made me feel confident that if I wanted to start like a one-person media company or production thing, I could just do it, just, you know, using a lot of the automatic features on it. I also really loved the fact that it had zebras. I currently don't have zebras on my Canon 80D. Zebras essentially kind of show you where things are completely blown out and the highlights are blown out in the shadows, and you can also see the zebras in the viewfinder, which was incredible. Some things I don't love about the camera. First off, one of the reasons that I wanted to switch to a mirrorless system is because I wanted a much lighter system, and the place that I went to be fair, doesn't have a great lens selection for rental. I rented the only zoom lens, but the G Master 28 to 70 millimeter that I rented was super heavy. That combined with like the camera, which is not that heavy, but the combined system was more than I would want to have to carry around if I was traveling per se. But I think that camera and the lens together works really well for event photographers or videographers who are just trying to get a bunch of different shots and don't have time to switch lenses all the time. With the wide aperture, the wide is at 2.8, they can get a really nice shallow depth of field and really nice like bokeh in the background. Second thing that I didn't love was, as like a novice amateur level person, the system is $5,000, with the camera being like $3,400 and the lens being $2,000. And even though I think the combination with that camera and the lens could do some really powerful stuff, even though I think the system together could do such really powerful stuff, I don't use so many of the features on the Sony A7S III. I'm not shooting in 4K. I don't have the computer and the data infrastructure to really support editing in 4K. I do think it's cool how you can turn something on in the camera to create video proxies as you shoot, so that could definitely reduce the editing burden a little bit and help things go faster for the professional level videographers. But for me and my level and kind of what I'm just into right now, it was definitely a bit much. I think in the future, if I'm totally willing to upgrade my entire data editing workflow, then upgrading to that kind of camera would also completely make sense. But right now I'm just kind of like shooting in 1080p. But even then, in those MP4 files, I think the video quality that I got was really incredible. Parting thoughts. Yeah, so my first tidbit of wisdom is that I really do encourage renting. I know that not everyone has a store that allows them to rent cameras near them. I had to travel some distance to get to one, but I'm really glad that I rented instead of buying. I think that sometimes when you look at other people using certain equipment, it could look pretty easy, but actually trying it yourself, you discover things that may or may not work for, you know, your particular taste. The camera cost $3,400 to buy, and renting it only cost $75 for a day. And because the camera store that I went to is closed on Sundays, I got it for 2 days for the price of one. The lens cost $35 to rent for a day. What's nice about renting is that a lot of those rental camera places let you apply the cost of renting for a day to the purchase of a new camera or lens or whatever you rented. If you end up not buying it, then you just paid the cost of the rental and you're not, you know, stuck with something that you bought that you may or may not love. And if you return it, there might be complications, you might have to pay a restocking fee, etc., etc. So yeah, highly encourage renting. Secondly, and most important, define what you want your technology to do and then go out and get the technology to match that intention. For me, I'm not going to use a lot of the high speed, you know, 4K and 120 frames per second or 1080, 200 frames per second on the Sony A7S III. Global shutter doesn't matter to me because I don't shoot fast moving things. I don't do really quick camera movements typically. So if I'm not going to use all these other features, it's nice to have, but do I really need it? I think an apt metaphor for someone who's not super, you know, into the world of cameras would be like if I gave a graphing calculator to a third grader. Like, yeah, the third grader might eventually need a graphing calculator in high school, but a third grader is at most like doing multiplication and division. They're not graphing parabolas, and I think that's how I feel a little bit with these cinema cameras. I'm not going to use a lot of the features, and I kind of more value portability and cost. But maybe one of these days I might want to use those features, so it could be an investment for the future. Hard to say. And yeah, that was my video review. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever.